Hello and welcome to Three Sisters here near Wigan for round 7 of the British Minibikes Championship, featuring classes for juniors that in 2024 will become the official road to Moto GP Junior World Series based in the UK. Earlier I spoke to the championship organiser and a BSB team principal to ask all about the plans for 2024, how they have come about and how to get your kids involved in the world of motorcycle racing from the age of 6. The three amigos, or the three Allans here, Alan Taddeo from TDI Media, introducing Alan Lord, who's the championship organiser for the British Minibikes Championship. Been doing that for a number of years. And Alan Gardner joins us as well from OMG Racing, British Superbike champions. We're here this weekend for round 7 of the British Minibikes Championship, but it's as a prelude to what's going on for next year. Some very exciting things. So there's a few things about what's going on there.
Yeah, well, next season we've got a massive change in the championship. We're converting over to mainly a junior championship, which is a junior progression championship. The idea is to take kids from 6 years old right the way up to 14, introduce them into two-wheel motorsport, obviously track racing, as you can see today, and then through a progression scale and a training scale, take them up to someday we hand them back to big championships, well-trained, well-honed, and hopefully very fast kids.
And Alan Gardner, that is, from OMG, what's going to be your involvement?
I've always tried to help younger parts of the sport as much as possible. I believe the younger boys and girls start riding, the more experience they're going to get, the faster they're going to get. And on a selfish point of view, if I can help the championship in any way, maybe in 10 years' time I get a superbike rider come and want to ride for me because I've helped them out when they were 6 or 7 years old. And it just gives them a better grounding in how a paddock works, how racing works. Alan always has done a fantastic job. So when they get to our paddock at British Superbikes, they understand how a paddock works. It's quite, for anybody coming in there blind as such, it's quite daunting, I think. So the way Alan runs a paddock is very, very similar. It's very strict in the way it should be and safety conscious. And he just gets the kids getting as quick as possible, as fast as possible, as in from an early age, and helps me. So I think it's only fair that I help him.
The idea of having a child from that young and having them in a proper environment where you've got doctors, paramedics, ambulances, trained marshals, trained, organising team around them to make that as safe as it possibly can be. Applied, especially next year, because we're running under the ACU, part of the FIM and Dorna World Series, we have the best possible safety level we can possibly give those children. So I think it's keen to get that over. That's what this is all about. It's not just chucking a kid out on a bike saying, off you go, let's get you fast. It's about doing it in a safe, clean, fast environment with the right tuition, the right progression, which is what we all want. We want the kids to be safe. We start off with the very, very young, which start from 6 years old on the mini motos. They're restricted. Obviously, they'll stay on those bikes probably up until 10. The next class up is the Avali and Mini GP 110 class, which is a 10-inch wheel. So next size up, next size in power. And you start from 9 from that up to 13. Once they get through that class, they then go to the Mini GP 160 and Avali 160, which is also part of the FIM World Series, which is a massive thing for the kids, especially their development and their promotion throughout the world for it. So it's a big series we'll get into in a minute. They then go up to the Mini GP 190, which starts from 12-year-old up until 16, which is the age, I think, in a couple of years' time where we'll be handing them up to the bigger bike classes. At the moment, it's 14, but I think the way it's going, that will extend further. So it's our job throughout that progression to get them steadily through the ranks without rushing them and get them through with steady progression, getting slightly bigger, slightly faster machinery as they get more experience under the belt. So at the end of the times, they say when they're in the 190s and it's the 14 or 16-year-olds, they're ready to start racing under other ACU bigger circuit championships.
And the biggest question we get that hasn't been answered yet in all of that, just go through the sort of speeds that the viewers will expect the kids to be doing today, and the slower, the mini moto smaller bikes, and then progressing up to the mini GP bikes. What sort of speeds are you getting up to here at Three Sisters? This is quite a fast track.
This is a fast circuit for the mini motors. In fact, you'll see that we've made an infield for the mini motors here to keep the speeds down. But you'll see them topping out about 55, 60 mile an hour, probably the maximum speed. Obviously their average speed is quite a lot lower than that, but that'll be top speed in the mini motos. 110s, about the 70-mile-an-hour bracket, but they're 4-stroke geared bikes, so there's a lot more torque involved in them there. They put along quicker. And then once I get from that age, you're up to the 160s, which again is another horsepower and a slightly bigger wheel. And you're up to about 80 mile an hour. And then the 190 bikes will do between 90 and 95 mile an hour on some of the bigger circuits. And say that's a top speed. That's not the average speed. The average speed is far lower than that.
Yeah. So next year then, World Series, just talk a little bit about how that's all come about.
Okay, we were asked by Dorna. We did help out with the World Series a few years back, which was very, very popular. We've been asked by Dorna to, as part of their Road to Moto GP series and promotion, to host the FIM 160 and FIM 190 championship, which are Ovale only. It's an Ovale class. This is a World Series. So every country in the world is taking part in this. Top 3 riders in each of those classes will be invited to their local Moto GP. Like for us, it will be possibly Moto GP Silverstone, where they'll go and take part in interviews, promotions, and that sort of thing. The winners of each of those respective championships, top 3, will go to race in Valencia in Moto GP weekend in their particular classes, the Ovale 160 and the Ovale 190. This is a circuit that's been built by Dorna and the FIM. They provide the bikes, they provide the leathers, they provide all the equipment, all the promotion. It's a massive thing for kids to be part of this world stage during the Moto GP final round, where all eyes are on them. All of the current Moto GP stars from that particular country come and help. They're in the paddock helping them with it and also helping promote it, and generally helping to look after the kids. It's a massive thing, and the promotion level is huge.
Yeah, and we don't tend to see this in four-wheel racing, do we? It's all about how much money people have got, and they don't get that opportunity that potentially the kids here will get next year. So anybody watching this now, not involved in the sport, doesn't even know the sport goes on. Plenty of people are not aware that there's this sort of level of activity going on. If they want to get involved in it, we'll put the link down to the website, but what's the easiest way to do that?
Probably through the website itself, which is www.britishminibikes.com. Couldn't get much simpler than that. All the information will be on there. At the moment, the World Series side of it hasn't been listed. Very shortly will do. Or you can go on our Facebook page, which again is British Minibikes. Again, it doesn't get much simpler than that.
Okay, guys, well, thanks very much for your time. We'll get underway with the racing. First race up, Jake Sanson, the commentator, has the grid positions. Jake.
Thank you very much, Alan. Max Robinson and Caden Herring are going to be starting on the front row of the grid for the Supermoto JSM 90 second race of the weekend. Ella Mosgrove and Charlie Dickinson, with Dan Taunton and Charlie Maguire on the third row. William Dickinson and Rex Armand, and then Dylan Cook, Tommy Dickinson, Ryan Merrin, and a non-starter, unfortunately, Carter Spinks, will not be taking up the start of this particular race, but hopefully we'll be back for the next one. So, Robinson versus Herring on the front row of the starting grid. Should be interesting to see what we can get to learn from Caden Herring in the first couple of laps. Ella Mosgrove with a good chance to break through that front row of the grid off the initial start, but it'll be that run to Paddock Bend that will really determine things. So, we wait for starters' orders. Is it going to be a clean break? Yes, it is, and no problem at all for our pole sitter, Max Robinson, who has launched forward through Paddock Bend, through the right and up towards the left-hander, already getting into a very confident stance. And as they work their way through on the club circuit, it is a very cool, calm and collected Max Robinson that leads the way. Ella Mosgrove working her best to try and get back into the action once again. As they work their way forward, it is already a very confident Max Robinson.
Looked like Ella was having trouble selecting a gear there. This is race 2 of the weekend. The first race took place the day before we're here. We're here to film races 2 and 3 of most of the classes today, just to clear up any confusion why this is race 2 and not race 1.
So now the two leaders already starting to get well clear as Charlie Dickinson starts to smell blood with Ella Mosgrove there in third position. But Mosgrove doing her best to drop Charlie Dickinson as they work their way now up Penrith Climb, working their best to go up and up. Once they get to the top of that peak, they're going to drop down Coward Summit. And this is where you really start to sense that Caden Herring is just reading the tone of Max Robinson up front. They go through Dunlop. There's still a few damp patches around the course, but Caden Herring has got good confidence coming up to the first corner again. Oh, and down in the background, that's Dickinson. Charlie Dickinson just overstepping. That's exactly what we were talking about. The damp patches, it's so easy to get caught out on cold tyres.
You know, the weather forecast today is mixed. You can see easily there, looking at the tarmac, you can see areas of damp and dry, and clearly Charlie's been caught out there. I think he's okay, I think he's up, but won't be going any further, Jake, I don't think so.
No, indeed, and that's going to leave Robinson and Herring dueling away up front, and they are trading apexes. Now, there is Charlie Dickinson trying to get back to the bike. Unfortunately, his race is over. Fabulous little battle cooking up here for 4th position. That's Dan Tanton on the number 5 bike, and Charlie Maguire hunting him down as they come up the valley. Going to work their way towards the S's. Meanwhile, this fabulous pair, Robertson and Herring, absolutely going at it, and Caden Herring is giving Max Robinson all kinds of aggro as they work their way along the Conrod Straight. They go reasonably carefully up Penrith climb, because you've got to be so intuitive in the damp conditions. If you want to go flat on the throttle through that right-hander, you're going to get caught out. So you have to be a little bit cautious up the inside. No, you can't just go gung-ho into the Dunlop bend. You have to be quite fluid on the throttle. And again, Caden Herring just seeking the position on the course where he can really challenge Max Robinson. You don't just want to go gung-ho crazy and take the lead. You have to be very measured as they come out of Paddock Bend and up towards the valley again. Now trying to go the long way round. Is there grip? There is indeed. And that is a brilliant move from Caden Herring.
That is a fantastic move by Caden for the lead. Congratulations to him. Can he clear off now? It looks like he's got some pace. You're right, Jake, coming off Coward Summit into the right-hander at Dunlop, with the conditions, they won't have seen Charlie going down behind, but we know already ourselves, is the battle of the 4th we're looking at now. We know ourselves how tricky that corner can be.
So now we're going to see if Charlie Maguire can start to deal with Dan Tanton. You can see Will Dickinson in the background there as well, trying to mix himself into this little battle. Now let's look back again at that move from Caden Herring. He's on the outside, and this is all about confidence. He is well measured there. He knows that he's got grip and traction, so he's going to make it work on the throttle, powering around the outside up the valley.
Yeah, you can see how far he's leaning over as well, so he's got a lot of confidence. He can see the difference between the damp part of the track and the dry part. He went for it and made it stick fastest lap to Max Robinson.
Yeah, he wants to get back in on Caden Herring, so he's not going to let him run away with it. Here are the pair of them as they've gone up the valley, through the S's again. And they've got to
closer.
Yeah, he is closer, but they've got to be careful about traffic here. That's Dylan Cook in front of them, and he's going to go either side of him. Goodness me, both very brave riders, one going left, one going right. Dylan Cook must have had a little bit more of a heart flutter there as he went through. Their next target is going to be Rex Armand, but look at the measure of Max Robinson trying his best to fight as we go into the final lap. He's only going to get one last crack at this. He's going to try and get up alongside. This is going to be brave if you're going to take it back. He has got a wheel in front. They lean into the right-hander up Penrith climb. Max Robinson has taken the race lead, but can he hold it? Because Caden Herring is not going to surrender this. They're going to go very close together as they drop down Coward Summit for the last time, breaking in for Dunlop, the final corner. And is it going to be enough for Caden Herring? It is not. Max Robinson is going to get there first. Great battle between the two of them in the closing stages. Both men deserving to take the win and only covered by a quarter of a second at the flag. Very nicely handled indeed. So it is Max Robinson that just seals the deal from Caden Herring. Ella Mosgrove with a very comfortable 3rd position in front of Daniel Tanton. Then Charlie Maguire ahead of William and Tommy Dickinson. Rex Armand a lap adrift in 8th position from Dylan Cook, and Carter Spinks, who does come home in P10.
Cracking race to kick off the show, and we're straight into Minimoto 10s, Jake.
Yeah, the 10mm are for riders aged 6 to 9, so this is really the birth of these riders' careers and legacies. Jensen Ansell and Kai Hawken front row of the starting grid. Caelan Ratcliffe and Sam Whitaker in front of Austin Dilks, with plenty of talent trying to catch them up. And this is going to be a tricky one. To the very left of your screen, Jensen Ansell taking up the position from pole. Kai Hawken alongside. And we are going to get to see what these youngsters aged just 6 to 9. I wouldn't have let my son have a go at this, I tell you. But I tell you what, these guys are going to give us a plenty good show as they work their way through to the hairpin. And they work their way now, instead of going round the hairpin, they're going to go through the S's at Paddock Bend, and then they'll go up along the Rogerson Straight. So they won't use the valley section, and it's going to be a shorter configuration. But Jensen Ansell has got himself a decent start. Wilson Dilks trying to get himself solidly into the top 5 as these youngsters get straight on with the action. And already Kai Hawken under some pressure. Is that Caelan Ratcliffe getting through there? to get into second position. I think he's managed to get just a whisker in front. No, that is the slow starting Kai Hawken getting himself back into that second position. So he may have had a bit of a tricky start, but he's definitely getting back on with it.
Yeah, 6 to 9 year olds on these bikes, you can see how fast they're going, around about 55 mile an hour by the time they get to the end of the straight, turn 1. That's Kai Hawken pictured there, the 20 bike from Cornwall running second, but for how long? Looks like he's fancying the lead here as he comes down paddock straight one more time.
This is a brilliant comeback from Kai Hawken, having had a bit of a difficult start. Look at him, he's very confident indeed on the throttle there through the first hairpin, just sizing up the opportunity, but Caelan Ratcliffe is coming back at him as well here. You've got to remember that on a circuit like this, with riders at the age of 6 to 9, the circuit is changing lap to lap. Sadly, we've lost Wilson Dilks. He's now retired from the race, which is very unfortunate because he was knocking on the door of the top 5 for this one. But the race circuit changes lap to lap in these conditions, so the riders are having to learn as they go.
Yeah, not sure what happened to Wilson, but he looks like he's out of the race. Well, officially, that's what the graphic says. He's retired from the race, so no more Wilson in this one, but we may see him later on as they come down the left-hander here. You can see this is a much shorter circuit. Obviously, these much smaller bikes, you wouldn't want to be on the international circuit on these bikes. The gearing would be ridiculous. And although I think they have run them here previously, but this is what's known as the club circuit here at Three Sisters. And very close at the head of the field. It's still Ansell that leads it from Hawken and Caelan Ratcliffe. Time in a little bit behind, but catches up in the end.
Yeah, and Sam Whitaker currently running in front of Emilio Pereira, and then Daisy Polden in P6 at the moment in front of Reece Saxelby. We think that might be Reece Saxelby with the rainbow boots. It's a 57 bike. There wasn't a 57 bike entered in this particular class.
No.
But that doesn't mean that the rider hasn't had a problem with the bike earlier in the weekend and been able to get a spare bike from a friend.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of camaraderie in the paddock. If people have a problem with a bike, people will loan bikes. But there's no 57 bike in this race according to the timing.
Oh, here we go. This might be the first real crack from Kai Hawken. They've suddenly started dropping Caelan Ratcliffe, who had a bit of a go in the initial phase of the race. It is Reece Saxelby that is on the 57 bike for this one. So he's clearly been able to get something from somebody else over the course of the race. Into the final lap we go, and Kai Hawken really starting to hustle Jensen Ansell at this point. And look at that, a 55.925 for the lap on the club circuit. Pretty quick for this stage of the race. He's got one shot really as they go the far way round the outside at Luna. That is very brave to be put on that particular part of the course and then to have to deal with it as we now watch Sam Whitaker being caught by Emilio Pereira in their final lap battle for 4th place. But does Kai Hawken have anything to handle with Jensen Ansell as they come into the final section? They go through out towards the S's. They will drop their way through, and there's only going to be one real chance now for Kai Hawken. He's going to need to be very strong on the throttle. There's going to be one chance on the inside line. No, that's well covered by Jensen Ansell. He's got to hope that he'll get a better exit off the turn and go faster on the throttle. But I think Jensen Ansell is just going to be able to hang on to that. Checkered flag is out, and he's done it again. So Jensen Ansell controlling the pace there in front of Kai Hawken. It's going to be a way back until Caelan Ratcliffe, there he is, comes through to finish off the job and seal the podium. Meanwhile, number 10, Samuel Whitaker, has dealt with Emilio Pereira on the final lap and checked out just a little bit to give himself that little bit of breathing space. So Emilio Pereira has to settle for 5th position on this occasion in front of Daisy Polden. So Jensen Ansell then taking the victory by just under 1/4 second from Kai Hawken. Caelan Ratcliffe there in P3 from Sam Whitaker and Emilio Pereira. Daisy Polden P6 in front of Reece Saxelby and Austin Dilks, who sadly retired from the race. But the Minimoto 10mm will be out again a little bit later on in the meeting. Great stuff though between Ansell and Hawken. Right, next up we have the 14mm counterparts. Now this is for the riders aged between 7 and 10. We've already got a very competitive grid. Taylor Tomlinson and Preston Baker, then Sebastian Kozlowski and Mason Frederick, then Bradley Curtis and Josh Perkins, Logan Cousins, Rex Austin and Archie Hooper. Away we go. Not a bad start from Preston Baker, trying to hold on with Taylor Tomlinson in the lead as we watch the number 12 diving through to maintain the position. That's Archie Hooper, having started dead last, now working his way through one by one, just taking it nice and easy, out through Luna. And Taylor Tomlinson looking good at the front end of the field. Where is Preston Baker? There he is, still in 2nd position. Already a very spirited bunch of competitors this. Slightly quicker, of course, the 14mm category, and slightly older as well. Riders aged 7 to 10 as they work their way again on the club circuit, so they go through the hairpin there at the end of the Conrod Straight. And this is Taylor Tomlinson's to lose at the moment, isn't it? He's got great confidence on the opening tour.
He has indeed. Looks like he'll be in a different county by the end of the race. It is worth pointing out as well, you will see riders taking part in the 10 mil and the 14 mil. They just want as much track time as possible. The point about that is these are kart circuits we're on, so practice days tend to be for people in karts, not on mini bikes. So the only time you'll get track time on some of these tracks will be to come to an event like this, a British Championship event. You will have people this weekend in various classes. I know Annabelle McCarthy, for example, coming up in the 190 race. I was talking to her dad earlier, and he said this is the first time in a 190.
Oh, what a move from Seb Kozlowski. That was absolutely fantastic there. He managed to go from the outside of Luna Bend, chopped across on the exit, and managed to get across the radius of Preston Baker. Very nicely handled. And now that he's got through, Mason Frederick fancies his chances to get into third position on the inside of that final hairpin. You've got to be so careful. And he's gone straight through the damp patch there. The youngster from Newbury, absolutely determined. He sees the gap and he wants to go for it. This is from second all the way down to seventh. You've got Kozlowski, Baker, Frederick, Perkins, Curtis and Cousins. And this is a really solid race battle we've got now, as Bradley Curtis is desperately trying to keep Josh Perkins honest as they go through up onto Luna Bend and onto the Conrod Straight again.
Taylor Tomlinson just, well, he's well out front, but look at this battle. This is fantastic. Lots of people. When you race at this level, you will find somebody at your level generally that you can play with. And here we've got 6 of them at it.
Well, see you later, alligators. Taylor Tomlinson is long gone up front. He's just enjoying the show now. But Kozlowski, Preston Baker, Mason Frederick, in front of Josh Perkins, Bradley Curtis and Logan Cousins. I'll tell you what, Mason Frederick is looking really hungry here in 4th position. He is not going to let up. Preston Baker cannot afford to make a single mistake in this race, can he? Because Mason Frederick is all over him like a bad habit. And this melee of riders giving us a very good show indeed. Rex Austin now has managed to get past Archie Hooper as well, by the way. So, as you were mentioning earlier, Alan, it's great to see that everybody is just able to race each other. Preston Baker has got back up again to Sebastian Kozlowski. So this is going to be very close indeed between these two. They're trying to get rid of Mason Frederick, but which of them is going to take second place? Preston Baker still hustling Sebastian Kozlowski. Coming up to the hairpin, nicely cut across there from Kozlowski, just chopping across the front wheel of Preston Baker. There's nothing malicious about that at all. That's just a statement of intent. You're not going to get through on the inside line. He's positioned the bike in exactly the position to allow him to control the pace of that particular corner. Preston Baker may have the fastest lap of the race, but Kozlowski is putting his bike in all the right places to thwart Baker's onslaught.
Yeah, interesting, isn't it? He's in 3rd place on track, well behind this man, the race leader picked out for you. But he's got the fastest lap of the race, Preston Baker, in 3rd place currently. But for how long?
Here he comes. They're going to go side by side along the Conrod Straight. He had to bail out of it because he knows that inside corner is not going to be easy to hold on the damp conditions. He can have one final crack at Kozlowski here. Up in front, though, Tomlinson is going to control this victory to the checkered flag. It's been absolutely masterclass from him as he comes through. He just cruises across the line. Authority. Now Preston Baker's going to try and race Kozlowski to the line. Oh my goodness, look at that. 7 thousandths of a second in it between Baker and Kozlowski, and it is Preston Baker that gets there first. Kozlowski pushing so hard he ran onto the grass and it's kicked him off on the grass verge. So tricky, but well done to Seb Kozlowski for pushing it all the way to the line. He'll be disappointed to come home 3rd instead of 2nd. Tomlinson has the win. Baker and Kozlowski have the photo finish on the podium. Mason Frederick 4th from Josh Perkins and Logan Cousins. Bradley Curtis coming home in 7th position ahead of Rex Austin and Archie Hooper. And if you thought that race was good, they'll be back for more in race 3 a little later on. Right, our attention now switches over to the OMG Racing Mini GP 110 race. Hudson Cooper and Parker Cesari on the front row of the grid. Chloe Gleason and Valentino Kimi Kirk, Max Robinson and Josh Herring, Leo Cilio and Caden Herring, and then Oliver Pitcher is the 9th rider in. This is going to be an interesting one, of course, in Mini GP 110 from the OMG Racing fold. These guys have an incredible pedigree behind them. They are for riders aged 8 to 12. Off we go, and a fabulous start from the front of the grid. No problems at all for Hudson Cooper to control it. He's certainly got himself off to a good start. We're switching back to the international circuit now, of course, so they've gone round the hairpin at Paddock Bend. Now they go round the tighter, twistier section as they go up the valley for the first time. It's looking a little bit drier there now than it was earlier on in the day, so that should help them on the first lap. But already, the OMG 110 class giving us plenty of excitement up front, but it's predictable as ever up in the sharp end of the field as Hudson Cooper is looking to stretch his advantage up front.
Yeah, Alan Lord, the organiser, was telling you earlier on, this 110 class, 4-stroke bikes, geared bikes, 70 miles an hour they will be doing at the end of the straight, and the ages are, Jake?
8 to 12, and that's the same age as the British cadet karting in the four-wheel discipline, and these guys are going considerably faster on 2 wheels than the British cadets do in karting on 4. So this is very brave stuff. Up the inside already, getting very aggressive to make the move into second position. Lovely bit of discipline there from Valentino Kimi Kirk to get up into second place there in front of Parker Cesari.
Yeah, I think his dad was covering all the motorsport bases when he was born, Jake. Valentino Rossi, Kimi Räikkönen, obviously his 2 favourites on 2 and 4 wheels. He's gone with the 2-wheel variety, and why not?
Yeah, he's clearly the Doctor and the Iceman rolled into one, isn't he? So Valentino Kimi Kirk now in front of Cesari and Gleeson. Chloe Gleeson looking fairly confident in these opening couple of laps as well. Now she has a chance to go after Parker Cesari, and watch out for Josh Herring. He's obviously had a little bit of experience in the class earlier on, so that should give him a little bit of behind-the-scenes knowledge, as it were, of how the circuit is currently faring. He can now start to have a look at these 3, but they are absolutely relentless. Kirk, Cesari and Gleeson, almost 3 abreast as they come up to the run-up Penrith climb, and that was in very brave stance from Parker Cesari to try and hustle Kirk into a mistake, but Valet has got himself there into a very solid second position, the 9-year-old. No worries, you're not going to get past me with any cheap overtakes today.
Yeah, Chloe Gleeson there as well, doing the best to keep the boys honest, no doubt. That's Parker Cesari pictured, man from Scotland, bit of a trek down to Wigan. He's currently running 3rd. Back left-handed now over the valley, that is Chloe. She's from Sussex, so these riders have had a bit of a trek to get here to Wigan, no doubt about it. But why wouldn't you? This is one of the best circuits, karting circuits in the country that you would race a mini bike on.
And I tell you what, the technical challenge of this circuit with its damp patches and its varying radiuses definitely make things very difficult at this level. There's the details of Leo Solyu. I actually mispronounced that at the start. Apologies, Leo. You can definitely get me back for that one later. Here's the opportunity from Parker Cesari, though. Again, he goes alongside and level with Kirk. It's difficult to really commit to that inside apex. It tightens very quickly on the run-up Penrith climb. You've got to have nerves of steel to hold that together, because you've also got to trust the rider alongside you that they're going to give you enough space to run parallel. And on that tighter corner, you just don't want to take the risk.
Yeah, it's interesting this, isn't it, as well? We know that Valley's 9 years of age. Look at the difference between the size of Valley there on that bike and the man in behind, Parker Cesari. You can see physically Parker a lot bigger, so you suspect he's probably at the higher end of the age spectrum, and whereas Valley is still at 9, still at the younger age.
Yeah, and that's the difficulty. You know, when you're 8 to 12, you've got all those different growth spurts, all those different frames and sizes of rider, so that really does play into it. It's much more physical in terms of the discipline as a junior sport than, say, karting would be or rallycross would be, so it is a very different discipline. Now, again, Parker Cesari's got great confidence off Luna. They go side by side up the Conrad Straight. You just can't commit to that inside line, because the thing is, they're sportsmen here. They want to make sure they've got enough space to play with. You don't just charge up the inside and let the rider in front fall over. You've got to do it clean. Yeah, there's got to be respect between the riders. They know if you come off at 70 mile an hour at the end of the straight here, going up over the hill, it's a big crash to have. So there's got to be respect between the riders. If you're going to make the move, you have to make it, and you have to make it clean. I'll tell you who's being really smart here. Chloe Gleeson, 4th position. She's just positioning her bike in exactly the right position, hunting down Kirk and Cesari, observing, watching, focusing on where the weak spots are. And she'll be ready. Yeah, absolutely. Learning about what the 2 riders in front are doing. She can actually pick up the pieces here in the last couple of laps if she just plays it cool and stays smart. Absolutely. That was Josh Herring going through the picture as well. He's there in 5th. Bit lonely for Josh.
nobody to play with at the moment, but these three definitely enjoying the weekend so far.
Here we go again. Cesari not quite getting the line off Luna Bend that he got on the previous couple of encounters, but this time able to still run fairly close. Now that's interesting. From one corner to the next, you really get to see who's got the advantage in individual corners. Valentino Kimi-Kirk, very strong on the run-up Penrith climb. Just a little bit tentative through the final turn. This is where Cesari can pick up the pieces again. Got a much better purchase on the throttle, but again, Kirk is really confident going into turn one.
Last lap, as they go through the line, the starter was holding the sign out. Hudson Cooper clearly out front. He's got the fastest lap, just over a minute on this circuit. That's pretty quick. You can see the circuit's dried out from earlier on, but we have rain predicted to come later, and that could make racing very interesting.
Go on, Chloe, don't give up the ghost. These two are still passable. Cesari all over the back of Valentino Kimi-Kirk, who still holds it in second. Gleeson having a big chance, a big challenge there on the inside of Luna.
Yeah, she had a look there, didn't she? But backed out of it in the end. That's probably a wise decision.
Here we go.
Cesari looking up the inside. Is he going to get there? Don't think so.
No, he's going to have to wait. So he decides to go long, get a little bit more purchase off the throttle up Penrith climb. This is better, much better from Cesari. Up front, Hudson Cooper's not going to be challenged to the flag. He comes out of the final turn, plenty of confidence in the last turn, and the checkered flag is out for him. Hudson Cooper gets the win. Who's going to get second? It's close, but it will be Kirk. He hangs on just in front of Cesari and Gleeson. Great racing from all three riders there. They gave each other all the space they needed to. Josh Herring is going to come through in front of Caden Herring, who will just hang on in front of the two riders behind as, I tell you what, Leo Soliu actually just pips Caden Herring to sixth position over the line there. Max Robinson was very close in indeed as well, and Oliver Pitcher coming through a lap adrift. But everybody is still learning at their respective paces. Great work from Cooper, a brilliant duel between Kirk, Cesari and Gleeson, with hopefully the same to come from them later. The OMG Racing Mini GP 160 and 50 categories now for riders between the ages of 10 and 14. Wilson Dilks and Kimi-Kirk back on that front row of the grid again. Parker Cesari and Frankie Watson, Jensen Bishop and Harrison Quincy, Dan Stevenson, Travis Shaw, Leo Solio and Hudson Cooper in the top 10. Further back, there's plenty more talent to come, as this is one of the busiest of our grids. So behind the top 10, led by Wilson Dilks and Valentino Kimi-Kirk. On the sixth row, we've got Sydney Marshall and Lucy Curtis. Annabelle McCarthy there alongside Seth Hayward, then George Ackerman, Riley Paisley, Arnie Carr, and Luke Fitchett. 18 riders, aged between 10 and 14, and a top speed of 80 miles an hour on these bikes. Off we go. Through the hairpin we go for the first part of the course. And already, it's a good start from Wilson Dilks, who has it neat and tidy. The young man from Mansfield holding the pace at the front end of the field as all of our competitors just try and knit their way through. There's a lot more riders on the road at this point, so it's going to be a lot more tricky to sort this one out.
Yeah, and you will recognise the name of the man in second place. That is, again, Valentino Kimi-Kirk. I said earlier, riders will take part in more than one class. They have more than one type of bike. They want as much track time as possible. And Valentino definitely wants some track time today.
He's riding on bike number 468. I wonder where that particular number came from. The 46. I think there's no guesses for getting where the 46 came from. This is already a very decent squabble in the midfield battle, and this is what we were talking about earlier on in the bill. Just because you're not running in first position, that doesn't mean you give yourself any less than a brilliant battle out there. Dan Stevenson currently running in the top 5, just trying to hold off Hudson Cooper, who's just come off the back of a win in his category in the previous race, don't forget. Luke Fitchett, meanwhile, is there in the middle of the gaggle with George Ackerman and Sydney Marshall in front, and Seth Hayward and Riley Paisley giving chase. So there's plenty of talented riders in this particular field, but it's Dilks in front of Kirk, Cesari, Quincy, then Stevenson, Cooper, Shaw and Jensen Bishop ahead of Leo Soliu.
Yeah, the reason we're here this weekend is because it's a prelude to us filming the full Junior World Series next year. The main classes are 160s, Mini GP 160s and 190s, but with 17 in this already, you can see we're going to have big grids next year.
Great racing in the Mini GP 160 and 50 category here at Three Sisters in Wigan, just outside the brilliant city of Manchester, or at least not too far from it anyway. Wilson Dilks, 9/10 of a second ahead of Valentino Kimi-Kirk. trying to stay in the battle. Parker Cesari. How about this for a terrific squabble? Stevenson, Cooper and Shaw having an absolute dogfight here, and Travis Shaw picking up the pieces there to move into 5th position at the expense of both Stevenson and Hudson Cooper. That is some amazing riding from Travis Shaw. Jenson Bishop is closing in on them as well on the 11X. You're probably wondering why his number is 11X. Well, it's because that man there, Dan Stevenson, carries the number 11, and they can't both carry the 11. So Jenson Bishop has added an X to his number so that they can differentiate.
Yeah, the reason he's adding an X is probably he's got some black tape somewhere, just so that it doesn't look the same number.
It's probably easier to put an X on than it is to put another number out of tape anyway. There's Annabelle McCarthy's details. We just saw her, and we were talking about her a little earlier on, making waves in the 160 and Mini GP 50 category. You've got to start somewhere, and in this incredible gaggle of riders, it's the perfect proving ground.
Yeah, you will see her coming up in the 190 class. As I said earlier, you speak to her dad earlier, and he did say she's on the 190 for the first time this weekend, so that race for her will be less of a race and more of a practice day.
Hudson Cooper now making his way past Dan Stevenson, so as they come off the turn, Jenson Bishop is hunting them both, and this could be an interesting battle between the three. Behind Bishop is Arnie Carr, there's George Akerman, in front of Leo Soliu, and then Luke Fitchett ahead of Sydney Marshall. Seth Hayward, Riley Paisley, Annabelle McCarthy and Lucy Curtis still in the hunt. Look at Jenson Bishop getting very quick there off the turn to try and move his way past up the valley in front of Dan Stevenson. Stevenson there carrying the colours. They look very akin to the colours worn by Aaron Slight back in the late 90s, early 2000s in the Superbike days. But obviously there's a lot of passion and patriotism within the various different liveries that these bike riders wear. You can obviously tell what colours Valentino Kimi Kirk wears, because he carries the number 46 of the Doctor. It's great to see these young kids carrying their passions and wearing their hearts on their sleeve in their colour schemes.
Yeah, spends a lot of time, Valley, out in Spain. He thinks that's the best place where he can learn. He's going to come up against a lot of competitions. Minibikes is a lot bigger in Spain as a sport. Here we tend to have, we've got 2 championships, that's it, both British level.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, if you want to race karting internationally, you go to Italy. If you want to race minibikes internationally, you go to Spain. That's where you learn. So, competitors really starting to tighten up. That's the opportunity for Jenson Bishop. Has to hang back a little bit there, though, from Dan Stevenson. Stevenson not giving him the benefit of the doubt there. Parker Cesari, though, the only man really keeping close to Valentino Kimi Kirk, but look at Wilson Dilks out front, just monstering it in the lead of this race. He has disappeared as Parker Cesari doing his best to keep close to Valentino Kimi Kirk. There's Harrison Kinsey in front of Travis Shaw, who has dropped Hudson Cooper, and now Dan Stevenson still holding on in front of Jenson Bishop and Arnie Carr.
Yeah, you have to say, on these two-wheel machines, that's an astonishing lead, 4.4 seconds. After the amount of laps that we've had so far. I think there are 9 laps these races today in total, but 4.4 seconds, now 5 seconds indeed out front, so he's around about half a second a lap at least, quicker than anybody else on the track.
Well, at this level of the sport, it's very different compared to karting. Karting, you get a rhythm and people are very evenly spaced. It all comes down to confidence in the mini bikes. If you've got that confidence stance, you can gain anywhere between half a second to a second and a half in 1 lap on your opposition. If you're just in the zone and you feel it, you've got the confidence, you know where the traction is, you know where the damp patches are, so you can ride around the problems essentially. And at this level, you do. Once you've got the nail on the throttle of that particular part of the course, once you've got that confidence, that rhythm, that pace, you can just check out.
Yeah, especially in these conditions. It has dried. You can see the track's a lot drier than it was earlier on in the piece, but on this shot here, you can see where the damp patches are. There's still damp patches. Rain is forecast, so we're expecting that to come along fairly soon.
Right, here comes the Scot. Parker Cesari really hunting down now on Valentino Kimi Kirk. Second position, last lap begins, and these two are at it again. They were dueling earlier on, and now they're at it in the 160 class. So this is the opportunity. Through the hairpin up to the valley. Luke Fitchett bangs in the fastest lap of the race from P10, so he's obviously trying to charge after Jenson Bishop and pull a fast one on the closing tour of the race. But can Parker Cesari beat Valentino Kimi Kirk this time? He just missed out last time, as we watch the battle further back as well. So Arnie Carr making progress, trying to shake off the competition. Yes, Arnie Carr has got past both Dan Stevenson and Jenson Bishop now, so that's up to 7th place. Can Cesari take on Valentino Kimi Kirk down the Conrad Straight? He was side by side with him earlier on, but it's exactly the same position in the Mini GP 160. He's desperately trying to get there, but he can't quite make it happen. So up in front, Wilson Dilks is going to absolutely clean up here at Three Sisters, takes the checkered flag. And again, this is all going to be about pace off the throttle. Can Parker Jazari get there in front? No, he can't. Kirk is going to hold that second place ahead of Parker Jazari. And Harrison Quincy is going to have a little bit of pressure there from Travis Shaw to the line. But Travis Shaw does have to concede defeat. Here comes the 6th position rider, Hudson Cooper. Is beaten by Arnie Carr, who had a fabulous closing run there to move his way up into P6 behind the top 5. 11 places gained. Hudson Cooper in 7th place in front of Daniel Stevenson and Jensen Bishop, with 8 places gained from Luke Fitchett up there in the top 10. A brilliant little rider.
Yeah, and the one thing Luke Fitchett can take from that, A, he made up 8 places, and B, he was the fastest man on the track.
So, battle for family honour in Junior SM140 and Mini GP 17. It's the Athertons. Callum ahead of Martin on the front row. Then Thomas Bond, Charlie Dickinson, Arthur Woods and George Parry giving chase. This will be a quick start. Off we go. And it looks like it's going to be Callum in front of Martin. Problems there for George Parry.
Now you can see that George has got a bib on, a yellow bib, and that denotes him as a complete novice rider. And that's just to alert people when they come to lap him, give him room, because this may be the very first time he's been on this bike.
Well, very disappointing start for George Parry, but you've got to learn on the job. That's the toughest thing about this sport. You learn by doing. Out in front, though, Callum Atherton is definitely looking good to make sure that Martin does the washing up when they get home. So Callum Atherton certainly taking control of the pace of this one. There is the 37, that's Arthur Woods, the leading of the N category, the novices, as it were. But obviously the yellow bib denotes that this is probably the first time, if not one of the very first times, that the rider is on the bike. But certainly Arthur Woods, the leader of the novice category competitors. George Parry is there, but Charlie Dickinson is there or thereabouts as well. But I fear that George Parry is going to have a lot of hard work to get himself up to scratch. But look at these two out front, Callum and Martin Atherton, just controlling the pace, no problems at all. Charlie Dickinson, by the way, did not take the start in the end, so there is just 5 of them out there, and so it's pretty serene for Callum and Martin Atherton as they trade sector times, trade apexes, and desperately try to ensure that the other one does all the cleaning jobs this week.
Yeah, we saw Charlie Dickinson go down in an earlier race, didn't we? Hopefully he's okay. Obviously he's not riding in this one. May feel he's got a bit of an injury and wants to sit it out. Worth pointing out as well, we're talking about, you know, first time people are on a bike. This is a British Championship, but the only time you get to be on the bike is a British Championship. In karting, of course, we've got club racing throughout the country, from John O'Groats to Land's End, effectively, all over the place. But in this sport, there's effectively 2 series that are going on in the country. This is the primary one in terms of numbers, British Minibikes, and that is the bike of George Parry just going through the pictures, about to get lapped after a very early part of this race, but you expect it because he's hardly had any experience on the bike. He's just getting used to the bike. You see there the pace he's got compared to the Athertons in behind as they go sweeping past. One goes one side, one goes the other, but he's just learning the bike. But he can only do it at the British Championships because they don't do practice days at kart circuits generally, certainly not here at Three Sisters.
No, indeed. A little further into the race, and George Parry isn't the only one having to deal with those sort of issues around there, as Callum and Martin Atherton have actually tightened up on the final lap. And this might be Martin's chance to get through into the lead as they work their way through the traffic. They just got past Thomas Bond. They've also obviously dealt with Arthur Woods and George Parry through the course of proceedings. But that is a very near miss for Martin Atherton. He almost managed to steal the lead away there from Callum.
Yeah, we've said this before as well, particularly in this sort of racing, because there's so much difference between the talent levels, the skills levels, the experience levels of riders compared to people that are just starting, and then the likes of the Athertons out front here as it starts to rain.
It's starting to rain, yeah. Now this is going to be significant for the races later.
Yeah, now the point about it is that there's so much difference in skill level. The ultimate winners often are decided by how they deal with the traffic, how they deal with lapped traffic, and we may see that today. We may see races won or lost by how they've dealt with the back marker.
Especially now that the rain's coming down as well. Callum Atherton takes the win ahead of Martin Atherton, despite the fact that it's Martin that actually gets the fastest lap of the race. Callum gets the win, Martin gets the bragging rights. I'm the fastest man out there.
It always amuses me, by the way, when marshals hold out a red and yellow flag.
Slippery surface flag.
Yeah, the slippery surface
we
flag.
know.
It's raining. I think the riders can work it out. They can see the raindrops on the helmet. But it always amuses me when we see them do that for something other than oil on the track.
Yeah, do you know what? I think they figured that one out. Callum Atherton in front of Martin Atherton. Thomas Bond coming home in a very solid third place ahead of Arthur Woods and George Parry. Learning on the job. There's still plenty to come, but with the rain coming down, things could get hectic. Race 2 of the weekend for Mini GP 190 and Mini GP 70. Tyler Humphries and Wilson Dilks. They'll be interesting to watch from the front. Marco Holt and Archie O'Brien. Blake Wilson and Luca Wilkinson from Tim Patterson. Ian Wareham, Ryan Spinks and Jensen Bishop. And the grid rounded out by Annabelle McCarthy making her debut in the category. And Luke Fitchett, one of our fastest riders from earlier on. Let's see how we go racing from the front. And it's Tyler Humphries that gets the perfect start. No worries at all from him as they go through Paddock Bend for the first time. And they'll work their way up to the valley. And already a very treacherous opposition coming in as they work their way through. Now, the little bit of spattering of rain that we saw at the end of the previous race is definitely going to make the surface a little bit trickier to cope with. And Tyler Humphries, leading the race, the man from Brechin, is definitely going to have a bit of a knife edge to deal with on this opening lap.
Yeah, Wilson Dilks, we've already seen him ahead of affairs, I think, in the 160, running second in this one. Tyler Humphries making the trip from Brechin in Scotland. I'm not exactly sure where Brechin is, but it sounds a long way away to me, Jake.
Well, I think the word beacons seems to follow Brechin every time I've heard about it in Scotland, so I'll have to get my...
And the Brecon Beacons in Wales.
Oh, yeah, there might be. There you go. That shows my geography. Anyway, Wilson Dilks is having all sorts of problems dealing with Archie O'Brien, who's committing up the final bend. Lovely move on the opening lap of the race from Archie O'Brien, dealing with the pressure very comfortably indeed. Now, that's a very rare thing that we've seen so far over the course of the day. Usually the riders are a little bit tentative on the opening couple of laps. Not Archie O'Brien. He gets stuck in, his elbows were out. He knows, do you know what, that's my one chance. I'm going to nail him on the final corner and get the job done. As we also see Luca Wilkinson trying to close up on Marco Holt and disappear ahead of Tim Patterson. But absolute kudos to Archie O'Brien. On the first lap, it's very difficult to have the confidence and the presence of mind to go for it. Luca Wilkinson, meanwhile, dealing with Wilson Dilks as he gets up the inside to try and go for third.
Yeah, this is very interesting indeed. You can see still a few spots of rain, I think, about on the lens.
Has Dilks got a problem?
Very misty, the rain, so the riders will see this on the helmets. For them, if they're doing sort of, and don't forget, this is the class that Alan Lord said, top speed, and they won't be doing this right now in these conditions.
Dilks losing another place and another.
Yeah,
so I think he's got a problem with the bike there.
Yeah, these bikes will do 95 mile an hour, these bikes flat out. They won't be doing that in these conditions though at the end of the straight.
Yeah, Wilson Dilks of course dominated in the earlier class, so this is definitely not going well at all for Wilson Dilks. He drops to 5th position now with Ian Wareham trying to work his way through. So I've got a feeling that there's actually some kind of technical difficulty with Wilson Dilks' bike. Look, he doesn't really have the confidence through the hairpin there on the run up to the valley as well. He's definitely on the back foot.
Is it the conditions though, Jake? Maybe he's just taking a view. And again, we've seen him very quick on the 160. This is the 190. Probably won't be as experienced on this bike. Wants to get used to it. Doesn't want to throw it down on the floor, have a big crash, and give his dad some spanner time repairing it. So just getting home as he loses a place. Just getting home in this one might be his ultimate ambition.
Yeah, it's a faster bike and it's greasier conditions. The rain is coming down, as you can see. So now, maybe it's just the thought, you know what? I've got a decent race I can win later. I may as well just get a little bit of an education here, figure out what this bike can and can't do. And now you're about to see a big pressure cooker building for Wilson Dilks as Marco Holt is now all over the back of him. Luca Wilkinson and Tim Patterson are having a great deal, by the way, in 3rd position. So they're having a great run of it. This is Tim Patterson trying to take on young Luca Wilkinson. Big difference, of course, between the heights and the stances of these two riders. It's a real knife edge for Luca Wilkinson to deal with.
Yeah, as you said earlier, Jake, 12 to 16, and you could see, looking at these two riders, one looks 12, one looks at least 16, and often, to be honest, in previous times, I've seen Pete Hickman, the Isle of Man record holder. I'm not sure he's still the Isle of Man record holder, but I've often seen Pete Hickman actually take part in these races and get his backside handed to him, by the way, by a kid. He's obviously heavier than the kid, so he's got a bit of a disadvantage, Peter. I was hoping to catch up with him this weekend, didn't do so, but we will do if we're here next year. But we often see Pete Hickman come in and just give the kids a bit of a target on his back that they can race against, and of course the kids love it. Here's a BSB rider, somebody that they see on TV, they respect, they love, but he comes in and he has a go. Now, whether this is the case with Tim Patterson here, is he looks like an adult, doesn't he? If he's 16, he's a big 16-year-old.
And I've always really liked that about Hickey as well, Pete Hickman. You know, you come from Macau, you've come from these amazing Isle of Man races, and you're going up against the kids and showing them how to go about it and helping them educate. You know, we need to get...
Big part of what Peter does now with these classes, as Tyler Humphrey sets the fastest lap.
Well, you'd never get Lewis Hamilton come back into the world of karting, would you?
Exactly, you would never see it, but you see a lot of BSB riders will come back to this. They'll do Pro-Am races, they'll come out of BSB. I know Brad Ray's done it several times, and they'll just race against the kids.
Well, this is the latest Spider-Man in the universe, isn't it? This is Spider Biker having a lovely run there, Archie O'Brien. That's a brilliant helmet design, and he runs there in second position, so clearly this is the version of Spider-Man who goes very quickly on two wheels. He's done a good job, but he won't catch Tyler Humphreys.
Yeah, we're making a point about Pete Hickman earlier. Peter's a great supporter of kids racing at these ages. He wants to see more and more people coming through enjoying motorcycle racing, and in the 160 and 190 classes particularly, he has been a stalwart over the last few years getting these classes going.
Well, Tyler Humphreys is going to reap the benefits of it. He's had a fabulous run to the line. The checkered flag is his. Good effort from Archie O'Brien as well, actually, to try and stay with him as long as possible there in second position. Looking back at the battle for third between Wilkinson and Patterson. Oh, Patterson's ahead. So Tim Patterson has got past Luca Wilkinson then on the final lap. They're going to race up to the line. Wilkinson is not giving up. He's got him. He's actually got him on the line. 0.003 of a second. Patterson thought he had it. Luca Wilkinson thinks better of it. No, mate, it's my podium. Ian Wareham in 5th place. Wilson Dilks in P6 from Luke Fitchett, Jensen Bishop and Annabelle McCarthy. But Luca Wilkinson, the star of the moment there, snatching back the 3rd position on the finish line. That was a little bit of magic.
You've probably worked out by now this is a race programme coming at you thick and fast.
It's the 3rd race of the weekend for Supermoto JSM 90. Max Robinson and Caden Herring on the front row from Ella Mosgrove and Dan Tanton. Then Charlie Maguire, William Dickinson, Tommy Dickinson and Rex Armand. And then it is Dylan Cook and Carter Spinks in the top 10. The final 2 are Ryan Merrin and Charlie Dickinson. Is this going to be 2 from 2 from Max Robinson? Only one way to find out. He's got the perfect start. A couple of the others got a little bit sluggish away in the greasy, slippery conditions, but I tell you what, no worries at all for Max Robinson, who has got himself into a very handy lead. And is that going to be Caden Herring into second? It is, as they go into the valley turn for the first time.
Good to see Charlie Dickinson back on the bike after his crash earlier on. We know he missed a race that I think he was supposed to be taking part in, but he's back on the bike again now.
And that's obviously just to make sure he's comfortable and ready for the opportunities that are going to be afforded to him in this one. As the riders work their way through. Ella Mosgrove there again in 3rd position, having had a very decent run earlier on, and she's now still there in 3rd position as we watch Ryan Merrin just getting up to speed, and it's getting heavier again, the rain. Now this is definitely going to cause problems.
And Charlie Dickinson does not want to see that after his early excursions coming off Dunlop. So he might be just using this as a bit of a practice day and not going too quickly in this one.
Well, this is
crashing earlier.
These are the kind of conditions they like to call character building, isn't it? Because it's not quite fully wet, but it's greasy, and that's where you get a really difficult learning playground. Now, here is Dan Tanton, desperately trying to shake off the attentions of Will Dickinson, who's just in behind him. Very close battle. Look how tentative it is out there in these tricky conditions.
Yeah, they're tiptoeing through Dunlop Bend. You can see how slow they're going, can't you? Physically taking care not to throw the bike on the ground.
This is all about confidence, and if you haven't got a lot of it at this phase, then you have to be quite delicate. There's Will Dickinson getting up the inside of Daniel Tanton, is committing to the inside line, and Tanton can't really afford to be too aggressive on the throttle powering out. So that's really tricky stuff as we've got so much of a squabble riders continuing on. Battle's looking pretty tentative. That's Rex Armand trying to close up on Charlie Maguire in their battle over 7th position. Max Robinson versus Caden Herring. And I tell you what, Ella Musgrove is actually a lot closer to them this time than she was in the previous race. These greasy conditions have given her a better chance of going for a top spot.
Yeah, these bikes will be doing something like, well, they could probably be doing 65, 70 mile an hour.
That was Tommy Dickinson having a moment coming out of the pits by the look of it, further into the race, and we can see that Caden Herring is still giving Max Robinson a really hard time as they come off the final turn. Oh, mistake! And that has caused a big issue for Caden Herring. Keep going, don't fall off. There we go. Caden Herring is going to drop to, I think, 3rd position. Yes, Ella Musgrove will get through into 2nd place, but that was a very simple mistake made, but Caden Herring didn't overreact to it. He didn't get silly. He just let the bike roll onto the grass, roll onto the mud, come back on, and he's still got time to salvage that 2nd place. He's just got to keep the faith. The worst type of condition, these greasier conditions, but look at Caden Herring already hustling Ella Musgrove after his little mistake earlier on. He's not going to make a mistake now. Dives up the inside in a 2nd place up Penrith Climb, and that is Caden Herring rejuvenating his race. There is Max Robinson up front, about 5 seconds up the road. He's just put a lap on the 14 of Tommy Dickinson and the 58 of Ryan Merrin, who have now traded places. But Caden Herring, after that little mistake, he now goes into the last lap knowing he won't be able to go for the win, but at least he's salvaged his 2nd place again.
Yeah, that was good mature riding. He's on the dirty stuff. You just got to keep the bike upright when you do that. Keep it upright, get it back on the tarmac, get the mud off your tyres, and then start racing again. That's what he's done.
And what a move that was on Ella Musgrove as well. Full of confidence, full of the joys of spring though, is Max Robinson up front. And with that mistake from Caden Herring, he has been able to just disappear up in front. There is young Tommy Dickinson, who is going quicker as the race bears on. Ryan Merrin has not been able to keep up with him there. There's Caden Herring, and then Ella Musgrove going through as they work their way past the traffic. But Max Robinson, look at the confidence. He's one of the only riders out there really to have a decent stance in these slippery conditions. But he will not be taking this for granted. He knows that just one lapse in concentration, one missed gear, one slight error in the throttle application, and that's you spat off the bike. So he's just going to take it nice and easy to the line. There you go. Max Robinson, a much tougher race for him to win than earlier, and therefore all the more satisfying now that he has. And look at that, a 1:12.2, fastest lap of the race. Nobody able to match him for one lap position. Caden Herring managing to salvage that 2nd place back again after his earlier error. Ella Musgrove, a much more confident ride that time for 3rd position. Well clear of her opponents. A very nice run. Dan Tanton coming home in 4th position in the end. Over a minute back from Max Robinson. That's how tricky the conditions were. Charlie Maguire in 5th in front of William Dickinson. Then Tommy Dickinson, who made up 3 places from the original starting grid. Rex Armand, Dylan Cook and Carter Spinks to round out the top 10. Back into the 10mm contest, and it's going to be Jensen Ansell and Kai Hawken that will renew their battle from the front row. Kaelin Ratcliffe and Sam Whitaker, Emilio Pereira, Daisy Bolden, Rhys Saxelby, Austin Dilks and Marshall Ahmed. Off we go. Several riders missing from the start of this one. As you can see, there's only 6 of them out there from the 9 that were supposed to be. So Jensen Ansell, Kai Hawken, Kaelin Ratcliffe, Sam Whitaker, Daisy Bolden and Rhys Saxelby are the ones that have taken the start. And Kai Hawken, the man who has come a heck of a long way to be here himself, all the way from Cornwall, running in 2nd position. This is normal, stereotypical Cornwall motorcycle weather. He knows exactly what he's doing in these conditions.
Keeping the bike upright, Jake, is what he should be doing, and that's what they're all doing at the moment. Will they
He's going
stay
for it.
like that, though?
He's going for it. He's going for the lead already. So Jensen Ansell has lost the lead here. Kai Hawken has got through. They tighten up the radius, and Kai Hawken is now leading this race. A very confident stance on the opening lap then, as Jensen Ansell is now going to have to play the chaser rather than the leader. So this will be an interesting start for him. He's now going to try and come back at him into the final hairpin. No, you don't. Kai Hawken spent the entire race earlier on watching Jensen Ansell defend, so now he knows how to do the same thing. Excellent work. Sam Whitaker in 3rd off the start. Kaelin Ratcliffe in 4th position. Daisy Polden and Reece Saxelby having a race of their own. This is a good chance for Sam Whittaker now as well. Didn't really get to feature in the top 3 of the earlier race. Now he's right up there in 3rd position. He's already left Caelan Ratcliffe behind to a certain extent, and this is where he gets his chance to play for the win.
Yeah, and interesting, I'm looking at Reece Saxelby here in difficult conditions compared to how we saw him in that first race. He was tiptoeing round the final bend, wasn't he, in that one, but certainly got a lot more pace. I know he's at the back, but don't forget again, this is more of a practice day than a race for him. Very, very inexperienced.
And also, this is a leveler. You know, the greasier conditions, he may not necessarily be comfortable yet pushing all the way to the 100% of the limit in the dry conditions, but in these sort of greasier surfaces, it is a leveler. As long as you've got a decent head on your shoulders, you don't have to be the fastest one out there. You've just got to be one of the most confident out there.
Absolutely. And it is all about getting quicker and quicker as the day goes on. It's learning and getting progressively faster. Obviously, that's difficult to do when the conditions are changeable like they are. But these 3 out front, they're making the best of it so far.
Sam Whittaker's clearly thought, you know what, I've got a chance at this. I could actually get past both men. Kai Hawkins overtaken Jensen Ansel, so if he can get past him, maybe I can have a go at it as well. And there is the proof of how difficult it is. The spots of rain on the camera lens again, so it's not easy to know what the weather is actually going to do from one lap to the next, never mind from one race to the next.
Yeah, and when you're leading, as we know in other forms of motorsport, if you're leading in a race and it's starting to rain, you'll get into that corner on the next lap, you're getting there first, and it will have changed. The grip levels will have changed each lap as the rain starts to come down, and if you're the race leader, you'll get into that corner first, and often it's the race leader that goes off.
Well, this is interesting. Jensen Ansel now having to play the understudy rather than the leading role here, and this is not quite the position he wanted to be in. Still under a second between these 3 riders. Kai Hawken, Jensen Ansel and Sam Whittaker, and one of these men is going to be able to have the opportunity to go for the win on the final lap, but they've got to get to that point first. The race doesn't really begin in conditions like this until you start the final lap, because you have to get into that position, you have to be in that mode, you have to make sure you're in that competitive place to even have a chance to rock the boat. And this is where Hawken, Ansel and Whittaker can read each other. They don't want to push too hard at this stage. The track is still changing every single lap, but the weather's getting a little bit more adverse again. The rain is getting heavier, so you don't want to push things too early, too soon. Just read the race, then make the decisions.
Yeah, if you're watching mini bike racing for the first time, in these mini motos, by the way, you might wonder, well, do they just use an all-weather tyre? No, they've got an option of slicks, intermediates and wets, believe it or not, and they can use tyre blankets in mini bike racing. You can't do that, as we know, in karting, but they do allow it in mini bike racing.
So Jensen Ansel is actually the fastest rider on the course at the moment. His best lap time is quicker than that of Kai Hawken, but crucially, he hasn't got a clear road in front of him. There is Reece Saxelby. There's still...
See, that, again, he's going round that corner. That's quicker than he went round that corner the first time we saw him going round that corner in the earlier race. So
absolutely right.
He is progressively getting quicker for somebody that's very, very inexperienced. So that's good to see. It's what you want to see.
And that's the thing. This is not the same sort of sport compared to the others. This is the opportunity for Jensen Ansel, and he returns the favour. He gets through then and takes the lead. And it is great to see. You know, Jensen Ansel getting himself back into the lead of the race. Sam Whittaker picking up the pace. He's now the fastest man on the course. They've got down to half a second between the 3. Jensen Ansel is about to lose this again. Kai Hawken trying his best to get through. And this is wonderful to see. This is not the same kind of sport that you see with the kids that compete in football, in rugby, in tennis, in cricket. When was the last time you saw the Manchester United under-12s play the Manchester City under-12s? You never see those matches.
I also want to say this, Jake. Football, massive sport. Do you ever see the under-12s on television?
No, indeed.
No, these kids are from the age of 6 and they're on television.
Absolutely.
Incredible, really.
The pressure that they're under to make mistakes, you know, they are under the microscope from such an early age, and there is so much more pressure on these young athletes than in their counterpart sports. So obviously this is a much bigger test of the character of these young racers and what they are doing out there in these greasy conditions, considering they are between 6 and 9 years of age. Yeah, that takes braver characters than me.
We know this is filmed for broadcast television. It also goes on our YouTube channel, where we will get potentially millions and millions. We've had mini bike races in the past, mini moto races with this particular class with 17 million views.
It was amazing.
Incredible.
So now Sam Whittaker just reading the pace of these 2 riders up front. Jensen Ansell back in the lead again. Kai Hawkins still there to play. Whittaker actually taking a wider line on that corner, and that's because he's got the opportunity to do that. Those two are hugging the inside radius. Just try something a little bit more varied. Just play the game a little bit more. Look, he's coming from further back. He can actually gain a little bit of pace around the outside because these two are tippy-toeing. They're dilly-dallying on the inside radius. He can be a little bit more diverse.
Yeah, in these conditions as well, don't forget the slippier surface is on the racing line. Where the rubber is, if you walk on it with a pair of leather shoes, it's like walking on ice, frankly.
This is really
so going
smart.
around the outside of the turn, that's where the grip is.
This is really smart from Sam Whittaker, just keeping himself in the fight, but taking a completely different line to the other two, because if they do end up tripping over each other, he's not in the same part of the racetrack. He's got a little bit more time to react if they get a little bit loose. So this is really smart racing from Sam Whittaker in third as he follows these two, just keeping himself in the game, not rocking the boat, not pushing the limit, just keeping himself in play.
You couldn't name the winner at this point, could you?
No, you really
could not
couldn't.
say who's going to win this race at this point in these conditions. It's incredible.
And just to give you an indication of how the conditions are changing, the new fastest lap of the race has come from Daisy Polden. She's banged in the time to go faster than all three of the riders in front of her. So great work from Daisy Polden. The purple timing line on the screen there shows you that she's faster than all three. And up the inside, Kai Hawkins again tries. Jensen Ansell managing to hold on again on the braking zone for the turn. This is really tight stuff. Ansell, Hawkins and Whittaker still trading radiuses, still trading sector times. Here comes Kai Hawkins again. Now he's level, now he's on the inside, but he has to bail out in the brakes. This is so tricky to call.
Yeah, amazing race. I mean, there's only, half a dozen started this, but you don't need many in a race to make it a cracking race. And we're into the last lap, and any one of these three can win it. Jensen Ansell has apparently put in the fastest lap. As things stand now, 59.229.
Yeah, he has taken back the fastest lap. It's confirmed on the timing screen to the left as well. So Jensen Ansell in front of Kai Hawkins and Sam Whittaker. Oh, and there goes Whittaker! It's so easily done in the difficult, greasy conditions. So Sam Whittaker's gone down in the bid to go for the win. Kai Hawkins, meanwhile, is going to get side by side with Jensen Ansell. Ansell will hold it for the moment into the braking zone for the right-hander, into the S's. It's not done yet. Oh, poor Sam Whittaker. He had such a good chance. I'm okay. Don't worry. I'm just really, really upset.
Yeah, got to take the positives out.
Oh, and there's Kai Hawkins.
Ridden well.
Making the move again on the inside of Jensen Ansell into the final hairpin. He's not going to get there. He's given it everything he's got. He's going to try to out-accelerate him, but it will be Jensen Ansell who holds on in front of Kai Hawkins. Great race between all three of the riders that came to play in that one. Full credit to Sam Whittaker. Yes, we'll know he's upset, but he rode like the little legend he is. Ratcliffe snatching third from Daisy Polden. Oh.
Dad taking Sam away, but Sam's got to take the positives out of that. He rode really, really well. He's finished sixth in the end, but he's had his little 15 minutes of fame on TV.
And I think it'll be the first of many. Ansell, Hawkins and Ratcliffe claim the spoils, but Sam Whittaker proves that he is just the equal of the two riders battling for the win. More to come.
Racing, and more racing coming right at you. The Minimoto 14 class, Jake.
Yep, Taylor Tomlinson and Preston Baker on the front row from Sebastian Gazlowski and Mason Fedrick. Then Perkins and Cousins, and we're off and away. And a fabulous start already out of the blocks for Taylor Tomlinson. And it looks as though Fedrick has definitely had his Weetabix ahead of this one. He's up to third position and is already challenging Gazlowski to try and move his way into second position. Big lunge on the inside from Josh Perkins. He tried to get up the inside line to make that move count. And around the outside, Fedrick is going to have a bit of pressure here. Was that Logan Cousins getting on the throttle pretty handy? Is out in front, Taylor Tomlinson making the bid. There is Fedrick now in second position, and that is the 71 of Bradley Curtis, in fact, going very wide to make the move around the outside of Gazlowski. So it is Bradley Curtis that is stepping up and paying attention here in the duel with Fedrick.
Conditions have changed slightly, a little bit damper than it was earlier, but again, Tomlinson is the man out front, well clear. Mason Fedrick pictured there, the man from Newbury running second.
Pace setter is still Taylor Tomlinson, but it's definitely shuffled on the first lap. It's going to be a very tough race. And on the inside, Bradley Curtis gets the run on Mason Frederick. The timing screen has not quite caught up with the state of play, but I tell you what, that was brave. Lap 2, cold tyres, needing a burst of confidence. And look at Curtis. He's going to try and go right round the outside of Taylor Tomlinson. He wants to win this one in the opening couple of laps, and he is going to commit to it. Tomlinson has had a major wake-up call here. There was a bit of a twitch of hesitation for Bradley Curtis. It's enough for Frederick to get back into second place, but we've got a race on our hands now.
Well, I thought Tomlinson was well clear, but something must have happened. This is the battle for the lead, 3 of a minute. Tomlinson was well out front. He's obviously had a moment and had to correct the bike maybe, and the other 2 are all over him now.
Look at Bradley Curtis. He's able to take the long, wide line to get himself tightened up on the radius again. Hugs the apex for the inside of the next left-hander, and he's through in a second place past Mason Frederick, and now he's got the confidence. Right, I'm into P2. I can go after Taylor Tomlinson. No man is unbeatable. I can make this happen. Gazlowski in fifth position, now behind Logan Cousins. And look at that, sweeping round the outside of Luna. Taylor Tomlinson has been vanquished by Bradley Curtis, who has absolutely stormed it. And here comes Tomlinson back again. He got a great throttle application out of Luna, and they are swapping the lead between the 3 of them.
What a race. You were saying earlier, Jake, the conditions are a great leveler, and here we go, another change for the lead. Fantastic stuff.
When was the last time at Three Sisters in any form of racing that you had 3 lead changes in 3 consecutive corners? I can't remember the last time I saw that at Three Sisters. Absolutely terrific, and that's in any form of motorsport, never mind in mini bikes. So Curtis now leads Tomlinson and Mason Frederick. They're having an absolute squabble, and this is terrific from Bradley Curtis. He has shown his rivals a clean pair of heels.
Fantastic race. The riders going through the picture further down the field, but this is the race for the lead. Curtis holding his own against a rider that won comfortably in the earlier race, but that's all about the conditions, Jake.
Bradley Curtis, you little dancer. This is terrific, the way he's worked his way into the lead. He's got to be a little bit tentative every time he comes through each of these little curves now, because Tomlinson and Frederick are going to have the wick turned up. The dial is going to be high and handsome. So is this going to be Taylor Tomlinson's bid to come back through on Bradley Curtis? Well, Frederick is actually going to get a better run on Taylor Tomlinson out of the final turn. No, you don't. I've got second place, and I was the winner earlier on. I'm not going to let Bradley Curtis get away with this. Don't even think about getting past me into second, Mason, says Taylor Tomlinson. This is a proper little duel, and for the moment, Bradley Curtis has got the confidence to keep the lead in front of Tomlinson and Frederick.
Yeah, we have a lot of mini bike racing on our YouTube channel. It tends to drive the channel. I can feel another 1 million views coming on for this race when it goes on there after it's been broadcast, that's for sure.
I can't disagree. Curtis, Tomlinson and Frederick. They've already checked out as well from Logan Cousins, Josh Perkins and Sebastian Gazlowski. It's as though we've lost the live timing for the moment. That shows you how tricky the weather conditions are. Even live timing can't keep up. Here we go. Tomlinson's got a good run off the turn. Is he going to make this into the lead? He is! Oh my goodness! That was terrific from Taylor Tomlinson. No, he's not! Curtis has held it round the outside. Tomlinson now dives into the first corner to try and take the lead back. No, you don't! Bradley Curtis holds on. This is epic. One of the best mini bike races I have seen for such a long time.
Yeah, it's been, 4 or 5 years since we filmed. The 12 bike going through the shot is Archie Hooper, back of the field. Well, he looks like he's got some pace, to be fair. I think, has he crashed and got back on? Who knows?
He's definitely looking quicker than he was earlier on. So again, that adage of just continue to learn through the day. Tomlinson, he's on a rocket ship as he blasts past Bradley Curtis. He stormed out of Luna Bend and absolutely monsters the throttle down the Conrad straight. That's enough to get back through on Bradley Curtis. Curtis is not giving up. He's still got plenty of opportunity to get back into this one. He comes off the turn, gets a back flick on the throttle. Watch for Mason Frederick. They nearly go 3 wide into the first bend, and Frederick just has to concede behind Bradley Curtis for the moment. Curtis trying again.
They all fancy the job, don't they? You can just tell from the body language. Taylor Tomlinson, fastest man on the track, but they all fancy the job here, no doubt.
If any one of those riders makes a mistake, it's up to the other 2 to keep it together. Cousins in 4th, Perkins in 5th, Gazlowski in 6th position ahead of Rex Austin, Preston Baker, who's really struggled in this race, to be fair to him, and Archie Hooper in 9th position. But hopefully Baker is going to take the plaudits from his earlier result, and he can build on that going into the next weekend. But this is magic stuff. Tomlinson, Curtis, Fedric, and Mason Fedric still thinks the victory is on here for him, and we haven't seen his big lunge yet, but he's certainly putting Bradley Curtis under a lot of pressure as they come off the final turn and down the home straight once again. The last lap board is out. Here we go.
Has Tomlinson done enough, Jake? I think he might have done 4 or 5 bike lengths. Is that enough? The man in second place doesn't think so. He still fancies it, no doubt.
And Mason Fedric just needs to stay hungry behind the pair of them, and this could be on. Logan Cousins is there in 4th position, hoping for something. Bradley Curtis needs a good run off Luna. It is a good run off Luna. He's not quite close enough to Taylor Tomlinson to make the bid yet, but if he gets him into the next right-hander, he has a chance, but he's just too far back. Look, Taylor Tomlinson has finally opened up the can of worms of confidence. This is absolutely superb now from him.
Yeah, Tomlinson, when it's mattered, has opened up the taps and put the distance between himself and second place. And it's for second place now between these two. And it's Tomlinson that's going to take the win again.
Superb in the final stretch. Tomlinson is going to have it. Is Fedric going to snatch second? On the line. We haven't had the update from the timing screen yet. Taylor Tomlinson got the win. I couldn't quite make out whether it was Curtis ahead of Fedric or the other way around. We're going to have to wait for the timing screen to update. It is Curtis who just gets there in front of Mason Fedric. How close was it between the two of them? Look at that, just a couple of hundredths of a second in it, really. Tomlinson, Curtis and Fedric from Logan Cousins in P4, Josh Perkins, Sebastian Gazlowski, and then Rex Austin from Preston Baker and Archie Hooper. One of the most thrilling of the races we have had so far here today, and hopefully the sign of things to come for these riders. The starting grids for race 3 made up of the finishing positions from race 2 in each class. This is the OMG Racing Mini GP 160 and 50 category. Wilson Dilks took the win earlier, so he takes the pole this time. Valentino Kimi Kirk alongside him, then Parker Jazari and Harrison Quincy, then Travis Shaw, Arnie Carr, Hudson Cooper and Dan Stevenson ahead of Jensen Bishop and Luke Fitchett, Leo Soliu, and then George Ackerman from Sydney Marshall, Seth Hayward, Lucy Curtis, Annabelle McCarthy, Riley Paisley, and rather sadly, Frankie Watson, who will not take the start of the race. So away we go. Wilson Dilks get underway. An interesting start. Annabelle McCarthy struggling off the line there, I noticed in the background, but hopefully she'll be able to keep it together. Valentino Kimi Kirk getting a very aggressive start there and manages to grab the lead away from Wilson Dilks. And I think Dilks may struggle to hold on to second even as around the outside. Valentino Kirk with a terrific start. That was very beautifully handled there, and now he holds the advantage in front of Parker Cesari, who has moved into second place in front of Wilson Dilks, who suddenly finds himself down in third. But it's that same pair again, dueling this time for the lead. Kirk versus Cesari.
Yeah, battle for the leader to come through Luna Bend. You see how damp the track is. I'm assuming these riders will be on some sort of intermediate tyre, not a full wet, certainly, and certainly not slicks.
Oh, Harrison Quincy trying to get into third position as they work their way up and has actually ended up losing ground. He drops down to 5th position. Wilson Dilks is about to lose third if he's not careful. And here comes Cesari trying to go round the outside at Coward Summit. That was brave, goodness me. That's not the easiest place to make any kind of overtaking move in any form of condition. But now making the move up to the inside, Wilson Dilks is able to hold on to third for the moment, but it's very tricky. So Cesari again hunting down Valentino Kimi Kirk, and that is Wilson Dilks, and there is the opportunity from further back. That is Hudson Cooper trying to get into third position now. He still remains in P4 for the moment as they go up over the crest.
Two distinct battles here, the leaders out front, and this battle here for what is third, fourth, fifth. Here they come, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Any one of these could finish on the podium, no doubt. A little bit of a distance back to those remaining.
Now Hudson Cooper trying his best to move into third past Wilson Dilks, and here comes Parker Cesari with confidence off Luna Bend. Can he get alongside down the Conrad straight? Well, I'll tell you who can. Harrison Quincy's trying to get side by side, nearly 3 wide as they come through. That's Arnie Carr, in fact, that has worked his way up into 5th position on his bike. Now trying to get up the inside at Coward Summit off Penrith Climb. Cesari was swarming all over Kirk as they came down. I think he's actually gone for the lead there. Here comes Dilks. Arnie Carr on the inside will get into third position. Past Cooper, past Dilks. Parker Cesari has taken the lead, and Arnie Carr has gone from 5th to 3rd in one fell swoop. Magic! Parker Cesari, now your new leader, having got past Valentino Kimi-Kirk, and this is again going to be a race all about confidence. Kimi-Kirk making his bid, back into the lead again. Beautifully done. That was wonderful off the final turn. He managed to get a little bit of extra throttle out of Dunlop, and now he takes the lead down the school start-finish straight. Manages to get into the lead, but now comes the traffic.
Yeah, well, they get past him fairly quickly. We said earlier, it's how you deal with the traffic in these races, no doubt about it, but both of them confidently passed, and they retained the positions they were in before. It looks like Valley's stretched out a little bit of a gap here, just getting away.
Check out this battle for 5th position now. Carr and Quincy have managed to drop them a little bit. Wilson Dilks just doesn't have the same confidence in these slightly slippery conditions compared to what we saw from him earlier on. He was able to check out and leave these two for dust, wasn't he? But now he's actually really struggling with the likes of Cooper, Shaw, Stevenson and George Ackerman really starting to give him some hustle as they come off of Coward Summit. Valentino Kimi-Kirk looking to keep the rise of the new doctor, very much pushing his way further forward. Parker Cesari, though, having had a taste of the lead, he wants it back. So he is going to be pushing very hard to make sure he can get there. Up to Paddock Bend, on the hairpin, up towards the turn of the valley. Will he make the dive at the inside? No, you just can't make that kind of deep committed overtake on that particular turn. It's very high risk. And if you get it wrong, you're not just going off, you're taking both men off.
Yeah, we saw somebody go for a lead there. You see the difference in the riders, the size of the riders. Watch his foot, comes off the peg as he's leading the bike over. That's probably because he's quite short. This is again this battle for 5th place. We did see a move for the lead earlier on around this bend, taking a wider line in. You can still see the damp patches.
Well, Travis Shaw appears to have lost out to both Hudson Cooper and Dan Stevenson in the last lap, so Wilson Dilks is still there in P5, but now he's got Travis Shaw dropping back into 8th position. Here comes the move, potentially on. Next lap around, Parker Cesari doing his best out of Coward Summit, but Valentino Kimi-Kirk is so confident on that inside line. Harrison Quincy, though, is going quicker than both men at the moment. He's just banged in a 1:04.1 as we take this race battle into the final lap. So what can Parker Cesari do? Don't want to go too ugly too early into the lap. Read the mode out of the turn, gets a wider trajectory. This is good work from Cesari, but it's great work too from Kirk. He needs to make that bike as wide as a Buick.
He may take a wider line here, Cesari, through Luna, on the exit of Luna, and give him the run down the straight. That could be his move for the victory. Let's see what he does.
So into the radius of the right-hander. Just wait, just wait. Now you want to plant the throttle, but you've got to have the confidence and the faith that there's going to be enough traction. The heat of the tyres is going to save you.
Back marker's going to come into play here.
Yeah, this is going to be all about timing now as they come up Penrith Climb. They'll probably meet the back marker as they come down Coward Summit, so this is going to be all about timing. It's Seth Hayward. They're going to need to pick their moment, and it will be Kirk that gets the benefit of it, but will he get held up out of the final turn? Cesari's going to try. He's going to give it everything, and he bangs the handlebars in frustration. He knows that catching Seth Hayward at that moment is what cost him the victory. Valentino Kimi-Kirk hangs on to the win then from Parker Cesari. Take a bow. Arnie Carr, that move earlier on to get him into 3rd is just going to be rewarded in front of Harrison Quincy. How close was that? And that is a final lap fall, I'm afraid to say. The bike is number 94. We don't have a 94, so I think that might be George Ackerman, who was looking for a top 10 finish. He isn't there. It is inherited then by Luke Fitchett ahead of Riley Paisley, who makes up 7 places to come home into the top 10. So well done to Paisley. But it's Kirk, Cesari and Carr that share the spoils on the podium ahead of Harrison Quincy, the hard charger, from Dilks, Cooper, Stevenson, Shaw, Luke Fitchett and Riley Paisley.
Moving on apace, it's the Mini GP 110 race, and again, here's Jake with the group positions.
And how about that for a top 3? Hudson Cooper, Valentino Kimi-Kirk and Parker Cesari get to do it all over again ahead of Chloe Gleason in the first 2 rows. Off we go! So let's see if Valentino Kimi-Kirk can beat Cesari once again in the different class. This is the Mini GP 110 bike this time, so it's definitely going to be a very tough challenge, but all of these riders are going to be up for it as they work their way up the valley, up towards the S's. Very different configuration, but Valentino Kimi-Kirk this time finds himself running in 2nd place behind the 217 of Hudson Cooper, with Cesari ahead of Chloe Gleason, Josh Herring, then Max Robertson, Leo Soliu, Caden Herring and Oliver Pitcher. So Parker Jazari missed out on the win last time. Can he clinch it this time round? Chloe Gleeson going well, the young lady from Sussex. 4th position, hoping to hunt down all 3 of the riders just in front of her. Certainly one of the most promising young lady talents that we have in the British Minibikes at this present moment in time, and it looks good for her to continue that development drive in 2024.
Yeah, I've no doubt she'll be part of that Junior World Series next year that we hope to be bringing you on broadcast television. 4 of them out front. Hudson Cooper, it's early in the race, battle for 2nd to 5th, is still raging. Quite got the sort of lead that he had early on in the last race, but still enough, just under a second rather, as he went through the line that time.
Now, because we had that fantastic battle earlier on between Kirk and Jazari, they've got a little bit of track knowledge, perhaps superior over some of the riders here, but it's the combination of the track knowledge with a very different bike. That's the thing. You look at it from the spectator's point of view and go, well, they're all the same sort of bikes, aren't they? They all look very similar. No. Every single different class of bike has their own different characteristic, their own different style of riding. Yeah, it'll be a different engine, heavier weight generally. A 110 is going to be less of a weight than a 160. It's going to be less than a 190. 190 should be the heavier bike. That's Leo Solu pictured, running 8th currently, the man from Bourne in Lincolnshire. Later in the race, coming off the summit. And that is Kirk diving in on Jazari. These two still trading places. It doesn't matter which class you put them in, they will still be absolutely bolted together. This has got Sheen and Roberts written all over it, hasn't it? Kirk and Jazari, they'll go through the lower classes together and they'll probably meet each other in the British Superbikes in the major classes again in the future.
Yeah, this Junior World Series next year, Jake, we look at Gleeson looking for a spot up the inside, couldn't quite get it done. We don't see the sort of level of support that Dorna are putting into the World Series. We've seen the British Talent Cup. Two-wheel racing has just got it right, haven't they, when it comes to junior development. You don't see the likes of Formula One management putting their hand in the pocket and doing something similar for the kids in four-wheel racing. It's about how much money the parents have got.
Absolutely, and what you really get to see as a result of that is the renewed confidence in these young talents. They feel like they've got the support, they feel like they've got the potential to grow, so that gives them the platform and the mentality to be able to push for it. And look at these riders, Kirk, Jazari, Gleeson, you know, they're not giving an inch and they're not taking a mile, are they? They're just absolutely measuring each other. They are psyching each other out here. They're sussing out the competition and feeling, right, well, in that one corner they're a little bit vulnerable. I can work on that in the next corner, find myself a little bit more confidence. Jazari getting up alongside Kirk on the run to the Valley hairpin there. And Gleeson, this is where she can gain a little bit of confidence. But Jazari is having his own think about the move on Kirk. It's wonderful to see these riders, perhaps even more so than we see in karting. These riders really getting the opportunity to wrestle for the victory and move further forward at an earlier stage in the race. There's Max Robinson we just saw in P6 ahead of Caden Herring and trying to take on Josh Herring. But Hudson Cooper is having an absolute barn dance out in front, isn't he? 3.5 seconds clear. That's more like it as far as Hudson Cooper's concerned.
Similar sort of way this race is developing than the earlier race. Hudson Cooper well clear. 3.5 seconds currently when he went through the line last time. But these three still battling and pretty much in the same position they were earlier.
So Gleeson just needs to be a little bit measured when it comes to taking on Parker Jazari's braking zones here. Into the last lap. Chloe Gleeson still trying to go for that step on the podium. However, Kirk versus Jazari is a very tough wall to penetrate. That is not going to be easy for her to find a spot. Hudson Cooper out in front has managed to duck under 1:04. Jazari having a think about it there. How brave is Parker Jazari prepared to be in that inside apex? Because he came from about half second back to have a look.
I don't think he made it. No, he didn't. Oof. Didn't quite get there.
Well, he's definitely willing to have a think about it though, isn't he? There is Hudson Cooper. That's the difference in the gap between them. 4.5 seconds. You've got to look back to see how Kirk and Jazari are getting on. Jazari thinking about it now. Right on the outside of the Conrad straight. They're almost nudging shoulders as they come through. This is going to be very tough for Jazari, but he's got confidence. Round the outside. Can he hold it? Kirk and Jazari absolutely jockeying for position over the top of Penrith Climb, but Hudson Cooper's going to get the race win out of the final turn. He almost puts one hand on the deck as he comes through. But who's going to get it between Kirk and Jazari? They're at the line. Kirk just takes it in front of Jazari. Chloe Gleason gets the best seat in the house.
Cracking racing and good respect shown between the riders there.
Oh, wow.
Kirk just coming home in front in second place.
I tell you what, this Valentino Kimi Kirk Parker Jazari duel has got Kenny Roberts and Barry Sheen written all over it. Josh Herring in P5 behind Gleason, Max Robinson in P6 ahead of Caden Herring, Leo Soliu and Oliver Pitcher coming home in P9. Remember the names, remember where you heard them first.
The last junior race of the weekend would be for JSM 140s with the Athertons out front. Callum ahead of Martin going into Luna early on in the race. This was in very tricky conditions. It had been raining and Martin in second place goes down on the low side, and that effectively would end all competition in the race. Callum would go on to take a comfortable victory. Just have another look at it in slow motion. You can see in these conditions it's very easy to lose the bike. He does just that, but he does bounce up. Shows a lot of character to get the bike up and running again, but wouldn't have the opportunity to catch Callum, who would go on to take a comfortable victory. 6 started in this one, only 4 would finish, as you can see, coming off Coward Summit for the last time. It would be Callum that would take the win. Martin would get it going again to finish second, some 35 seconds behind. Well, that's all we've got time for in this programme. We'll be back in 2024 with the Junior World Series. Expect big grids throughout and plenty of race action. We'll see you again then.